let's sit around and chat. Well, of course I like the stench of the fire. Well, of course I like to sit around and chat.
Froley.
Froley.
Need my baby Froley.
It's the first baby in 18 years. You can't call it Froley.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's The Conquest of Popcorn. I'm your host Barto.
I'm Pinko.
And we're here to chat about another movie that we spent time with this week. Before we get into that, how's your week been? Anything wild?
It was very long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids no good.
It's just getting to that end of the year point where it's starting to get really nice outside. Nobody wants to be there. Not even the teachers, let's be honest. I don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. We still have another month of school now.
It's so weird that you're going through so many of the same emotional responses to school that I remember going through in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Or whatever. that the teacher is also feeling this same sort of dread about everything that's going on.
Work is awful whether or not
you're
getting paid for it. Whether you're a student or, an educator, work sucks. I mean, on the bright side, it was Teacher Appreciation Week, so there was catered lunch for the teachers every day.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very for that. I'm very for free food wherever you can get it.
I brought home a bunch of leftovers.
Thanks.
It was pretty cool.
I don't think I have anything interesting to report this week. Did I do anything wild?
No.
I don't think we did. We did Food Not Bombs today. We're recording on a Saturday, which is sort of a weird time to record, but
yeah, I wasn't really feeling it this week, so sorry about that, guys. That was my fault.
That's okay. This is free.
Yeah.
This is free.
Assholes. This is free. Stop complaining. JK. Nobody was like, we demand another episode.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll get there.
Yeah.
There were local news happenings.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, some cops killed 2 dogs.
Yeah, in Newark today.
Yeah.
Which I've been told over and over again is not Newark.
No, Newark's in New Jersey. Newark is in Delaware.
Yeah. But, yeah, I guess...
they shot one and ran one over with a car.
They ran them both over with the car.
Oh, really?
Shot one of them. The other dog is at large and...
I hope it,
theoretically dangerous.
I hope it gets away. And you know what movie we should do soon? It's called White God.
Oh yeah, we should do White God.
It's about a dog that leads a dog uprising. I want that to happen.
Yeah.
With this dog. I want it to get its revenge against the police.
Yeah, that was a cool movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do White God.
It's a really good movie. I think it's on Netflix still.
Oh, easy.
So
we don't need to,
y'all can watch it too.
Face malware to to watch it. Cool. But yeah, this week we braved malware to watch one of my all-time favorite movies. One of the few movies that is every time I watch it, it's gonna make me tear up several times.
I didn't see you tear up. You fell asleep.
No.
Oh no, that wasn't that movie. That was the one that we watched yesterday.
Yeah, that I fell asleep. No, I did not fall asleep.
I did not see
movie.
you tear up though.
That's because I'm
putting
masculinity
on a brave face for the lady.
Yeah, masculinity is fragile as fuck, and I got to do my best to hide it. But yeah, it was there.
Well, that's good. I hate sensitive boys.
Yeah,
I hate it when they cry. It's disgusting.
Rightfully so.
This is a joke. Express your emotions in a healthy way, everyone, please.
By crying.
If that's how you need to do it.
Yeah.
I prefer crying to punching holes in walls. Always.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. But, yeah, I cry whenever I watch
The Lion King.
The opening to The Lion King, yes. And then there's lots to laugh at. There's lots to critique. I'm happy to talk about The Lion King later. That's another. I have so many thoughts on The Lion King. But 2007's Children of Men is what we watched this week. Directed by and written by Alfonso Cuarón, who is probably most notable for Y Tu Mama Tambien.
I was afraid you were going to say Harry Potter.
Well, but I mean, actually, that's probably what he's most notable for.
Most famous for, but yeah, I mean,
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, right?
Yeah, which is one of the better Harry Potter movies, in my opinion.
I saw the first one and then happenstancely saw the second one.
Yeah, the first two, they're very young, childish sort of movies. The third one, it gets a little bit darker, and I'm really glad that when I saw them as a kid, I thought it was good that they had like changed the director and changed the feel of it for that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me want to watch it because I freaking love this movie so much. He also did Gravity, which I did not like.
I didn't see that one. Wait, no, is that the Sandra Bullock one?
Yeah.
Where they're just like floating around in space.
Yeah.
I did see that one. That was a weird. That was
and like George Clooney or something is like talking to her the whole time.
Yeah.
And
that was a weird movie.
Yeah, I didn't like that one very much.
It was mostly a movie of like, look at the cool CGI and camera angles and shit we can do.
I mean, and he's very good at that.
It's boring.
Yeah, I mean, Gravity I thought was boring and like a weird message.
He is good at interesting camera work. That struck me throughout this movie.
But yeah, he did Y Tu Mama Tambien, and then like all these major studios were like throwing scripts at him, and he got this one, and the original it's based on a novel, and the original novel and screenplay for this is not at all how it turned out. And it was someone looking at this situation that we're about to explore from like a very bourgeois point of view, and like the main character was like a super rich guy who was super isolated, and he really hated it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very interesting.
And he thought it sounded like a very B science fiction movie, and then September 11th happened, and then he started thinking about the course that history was going to go down.
Yeah.
And then he did Harry Potter. Then he did Harry Potter.
Well, everybody's got to make some money.
But he was really thinking hard about this movie while he was doing Harry Potter, and he came back to it. And the basic premise of this movie is that 18 years ago, humans stopped being able to have babies.
Right.
And so the world, and it starts off with these news reports that, especially in 2007, or in 2007, and especially today, everyone would recognize. Like, it's just a voice. You don't even need to show them. But they say it's like, it's a black screen with a news reporter going like, day 1000 of the siege of Seattle.
Day 1000 of the siege of Seattle.
The Muslim community demands an end to the army's occupation of mosques.
The Homeland Security Bill is ratified. After 8 years, British borders will remain closed. The deportation of illegal immigrants will continue. Good morning. Our lead story.
Sounds pretty familiar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
on the nose.
Yeah, this movie has had a resurgence in the last couple of years.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Deportation of immigrants, you say.
Yeah.
Suppression of the Muslim community, you say.
This does take place in England, though. That's a big... America
is happening there, too.
Yeah.
Like now.
Yeah. It's
like all of the same social unrest and poor treatment of immigrants and Muslims that's happening in the U.S. is happening in England.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was reading some stuff about this movie, and I discovered I don't know if it's his favorite, but I think it's up there in Francis Fukuyama, End of History guy's favorite films.
That's very odd to me.
Yeah.
Because this movie is the logical conclusion of, like, neoliberal policy.
Right.
I mean, assuming that, like, all of humanity can stop having children. But, like, I don't know, say some other social awful issue happened where, like, society was really threatened in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Neoliberal policy would turn toward this world.
So the world that they have set up is one where, at least according to the propaganda that's playing on the screens in this world, all the great powers have fallen. Like, governments are collapsed, including places like Russia, the United States, and the rest of, like, the Western world, and presumably Africa, the Middle East, Asia. You know, all the governments have collapsed, and England is the only one that remains and stands strong.
That's so weird to me.
Yeah,
I have trouble believing England would be the government that would be resilient.
Yeah, me too. I
guess I don't have a reason. But just that there's already so much, like, political, like, factionalism and like, conflict there as it is.
It's
I don't know. Maybe they're an island.
Yeah, they are an island.
Them. They do have a very strong military.
Well, and they're also, I don't know if this helps the argument or works the opposite. Maybe you can weigh in, but I think England is, like, one of the only countries in the world, or the only, without, like, a constitution or anything like that.
Wait.
They don't have, like, a founding document.
Well, no, because they drafted one later in their history demanding certain rights.
Do they have a constitution?
Like the Magna Carta?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a constitution.
I don't
know.
think they do.
You would have to ask somebody else.
I
don't think that they started out with one, though, because they had a monarch.
Yeah, because they've been all over. They've been around forever.
Yeah, but I feel like there's been some document laying out rights for people in recent history. Establishing, like, Parliament and the House of Commons and whatnot.
Yeah.
Allowing people to have more of a voice in their government.
It does not have a codified constitution, but an unwritten one formed the acts of Parliament, court judgments, and conventions. The Magna Carta has a place in this system.
Hey, okay, so I wasn't completely off base there.
No, but it is without a written constitution.
So why would that help?
My point being that the state of Great Britain as a whole is formed on a basis of, like, tradition rather than law, and, like, the roots of just, like, this is just how it is because, you know, this is how it's always been.
But there's other countries that are that old.
Yeah.
Other governments.
Yeah. I mean,
and people's memory is short. People have that attitude about the U.S.
That's true.
This is, we have a whole mythology about our origin, and this is our tradition, and I don't know.
No, yeah, you might be right.
I guess it's also a massive country. It might be
trickier
to keep
hold
it together.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, at the same time, like, the military would be formidable.
I mean, they hint that, I think it's in one of the propaganda clips, that, like, a nuclear weapon went off, like, in New York or something like that. I'm
I
not
could see
sure.
our government doing something like that. Or somebody doing it to us. Yeah. Okay. I do agree with the idea that if humanity could stop, like, had to stop having children or could no longer have children, it would cause society to really fall apart, because so much of the, like, mythos of our government is based on making things better for our children and for the future, and we can't just have a messy revolution, because what about the children? What would happen to them? But if you don't have children to live for,
what are the elected officials, like, what purpose do they have at all? What are we fighting for if we're fighting against them?
And then think of all the people whose livelihoods depend on there being children.
Yeah.
I would be out of a job.
Yeah, I mean, just everyone from pediatricians to teachers to
babysitters,
the
people that make those baby Einstein movies,
the people that in the global south that are responsible for making children's clothes,
things
like that, which they sort of address very subtly.
They have dog clothes instead.
But it starts off with this general headlines that they're throwing out about what's going on, things that we could recognize, and then they talk about baby Diego, who is now 18, and he has died.
The world was stunned today by the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet. Baby Diego was stabbed outside a bar in Buenos Aires after refusing to sign an autograph.
Killed, right?
Yeah, some fan asked him for an autograph, and he spit on the fan. Again, he's a celebrity because he's the last person born.
Yeah, the youngest person in the world.
Yeah.
Which would be a horrible reason to be a celebrity.
Yeah, what a fucking trip.
Yeah. And then they say who the next youngest person is, the new youngest person, a woman, an 18-year-old woman. Can you imagine, like, the news just broadcasts your name to the whole world?
Yeah.
So now everybody can turn to you to be, like, their messiah figure.
Yeah. But we're walking in, and Clive Owen, who's the star, he plays the character named Theo, who is sort of just like a government pencil pusher. We don't see him like working a ton, but he's going into this very crowded coffee shop where everyone is staring at the TV screens, learning the news that baby Diego has passed away, and everyone's kind of in shock. And he gets his coffee, and this is where the relationship between Theo and crowds in this movie is pretty interesting, I think. And right here, the crowd that he's in is all like sort of blue collar people, working people, who are caught up in media like normal ass folk are. He goes out, he gets his coffee, he pours whiskey in it, which he has a very fond relationship with through the movie.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, fuck.
And when we find out about his tortured past, that
Yeah.
is probably driving some of this.
Yeah. But and then a bomb goes off in the coffee shop, where he just was. His ears are ringing. We get that sound for a little while. But he still just fucking goes to work. He gets there and he says like, the death of everyone at his work is like crying because everyone is upset over the death of baby Diego. And so he just goes to his boss and he's like, I think I'm more affected by baby Diego than I previously imagined, and can I finish my work at home?
I would have been like, a bomb went off at a coffee shop where I was, and now this baby Diego is dead. Can I just go? I don't know. I feel like the almost dying thing is a better excuse to go home from work.
Hard agree.
The boss seems a little bit like, yeah, whatever, fuck this. Like, I don't believe you, but what can I do about it?
Yeah. but instead of going home, he hops on a train where gangs of like youngish people, they can't be that young, but youngish people and poorer people start like throwing rocks at the train and stuff as he's going by.
There was a really good bit of graffiti in that scene that I liked.
Oh yeah, what was that?
It said, "The last one to die, please turn the light out."
Yeah. Which, I mean, is just good, praxis in general. But and then we see what I'm sort of thinking about in his going back to like his relationship with the crowd. He gets off the train, and leaving the train there's just like people in cages and like immigration police, and there's signs everywhere about not harboring refugees, and this is the refugees, or Fugees as they're called in the film, are like the big other of this world,
demonized class that everyone's blaming them for whatever.
Yeah, and they're not all people of color. Lots of people of color.
No, it's just anybody from any other country.
Yeah.
There's lots of white people. I mean, I guess England is like closing its borders off because they're the last standing government, so people are trying to get there.
Yeah.
Which I've heard this sort of idea that in the coming decades, with the expectation that climate change is going to make lots of parts of the world inhospitable, some of the immigration policies that we're seeing now in England and the United States have to do with people sort of anticipating a wave of refugees,
totally,
and trying to like close off these countries before that happens.
And be like, well, no, them's just the rules. Like, when people, I mean,
I forget who it was that was talking about this. I mean, basically, like, these northern first world countries have caused this climate crisis, and now when people are going to be clamoring to them for help, they want to be able to shut the door.
I mean, at some level, Syria is already like an example of this, and things like drought are what exacerbated the initial conflicts at the beginning of what was the Syrian civil war.
It's a very terrifying thought to me. Whenever I think about it, I think about how scarce like livable places are going to become, and how many people are going to be forced to just live like on a trash heap in the ocean.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I hope not.
I don't know if you and I are going to be in a trash heap in the ocean, but I don't think that people of our class will have very ideal living conditions.
No.
Like, you think that our studio apartment sucks now.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need to get inland or something.
I'm a pretty huge eco pessimist.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the major, the mystery of infertility is still like raging in this world, but there's a lot of signs that suggest it has to do with ecology, and as a result of the excesses of capitalism in some way.
Yeah.
They are I mean, there's a relationship between infertility and capitalist access. Like,
well, capitalism is everywhere in this movie. Advertisements are important in the background.
Yeah.
There's an upper class and a lower class clearly defined.
Yeah, I mean, they're, one of Forever Young is the name of the plastic surgery company that you see a couple billboards for.
Youth must be coveted so much in this
yeah,
society.
exactly.
Yeah, more so than it is now, even.
And you mentioned before, I think it's a Gap ad, but it's like a baby Gap ad, but for your dog.
Yeah.
Like dressing your dog in really fancy clothes and stuff like that. But yeah, so where were we? Whatever the case, he's walking past these people, and we I don't know if we've seen this yet, but it's one of the first times that the camera stops. It's not. I guess it's not one of the first times, but it's one of the first very dramatic times the camera stops following Theo and takes and just peers and
lingers over
the crowd of people in these cages.
Yeah,
I think the YouTube channel Nerd Writer.
You guys should definitely look this up. It was really good. We'll tweet it.
Who I used for when we talk about the art later. I used for that, but he refers to the camera as being preoccupied with things in the background, and not, necessarily the story of the character itself, Theo.
Yeah, it has a really cool effect. It's very disorienting. It kind of like underlines how chaotic everything is. And you're right, like forces the viewer to sort of empathize with the rest of the world and notice the rest of the world over just empathizing with the main character. It kind of reminded me of the way Mother is shot, that movie Mother, which I really didn't like.
Just in this, like, that one is in such a way as to, if I remember correctly, to like really emphasize how fucking confusing of a world our protagonist is in.
And we're seeing what she's seeing in that movie. She's looking around like at all of the chaos, but in this one we're seeing what Theo is not noticing,
or choosing to ignore.
Yeah, choosing to ignore is better. Like he's numb to it. He sees it every day.
But yeah, he walks past all these Fujis and cages and police with dogs, and goes and meets his friend Jasper, who's played by Michael Caine, who is, like, in actuality a Tory asshole. And
which is a shame, because he plays such delightful characters.
He's so fucking charming.
Yeah, he seems like he could be like, in his role in this, he reminds me of this college professor I had that I really liked. This philosophy professor.
Yeah, he's super hippy dippy is the main idea.
This character or this professor was, but yeah, like he seems like you could be buds with him.
Yeah, in reality, Michael Caine fucking hates poor people so much.
That's a shame.
Yeah, is a huge jerk.
Because poor people buy a lot of his movies.
Yep. But yeah, we meet this guy who, and he takes Theo to his house, which is, hidden away off the road. You have to like move tree branches and stuff to go to this it's fairly lavish house where he like has like a nice weed growing operation, and he's there with his catatonic wife, who
she's just in a wheelchair and like not responsive. Is she in a vegetative state, or do we ever know what happened to her?
We don't. As far as I know, we don't know what happened to her. But she just kind of looks out. She's around with them whenever they're hanging out and talking, but she doesn't do anything. She looks conscious, but
right.
But doesn't.
He talks to her.
Yeah, he talks to her a lot. Yeah, he's very sweet to her. I forgot to write down the name of the drug, but it's where we first learn of the government supplied suicide kits.
Oh.
That Jasper has.
Why? I missed that part.
Oh yeah.
So why is the government supplied suicide kits?
I suspect because they're overburdened as a state and don't want to have to take care of people.
Oh, so when people become too old and rather than have hospice care and like geriatric care, they just
Right.
palliative care and stuff. They just
it's
kill them.
it's advertised like at one point Theo wakes up in his room and it's like the advertisement that's like on his TV, it's just like I forget what it's called, but the tagline is like, you decide when it's time.
Oh,
In like this like real, in the same way that like prescription drug commercials work now, except for
this kind of makes me think of have you ever noticed that billboard over, I think it's King Street, on the way to where we do Food Not Bombs? There's this huge billboard on top of like an apartment building, and it just says assisted suicide is dead wrong, vote against this bill. It's been there for so long. I think that whatever bill it's arguing against has long passed.
Man, I didn't know there was an assisted suicide bill in Delaware.
I don't think that it ever went anywhere.
Badass.
I don't think it ever went anywhere, but it's interesting because assisted suicide or euthanasia is something a lot of people have been fighting for.
I think
interesting to see it implemented in such a way as to like, we just don't want to deal with it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea like Jasper's character hadn't asked for the assisted suicide pills to like show up at his house. They just like doled them out. I don't know how it got there. I can't imagine a mailman goes there, but whatever the case, he has them.
Maybe you're just issued them when your wife becomes catatonic.
Yeah, it's possible. But Jasper's sort of an interesting character because he's like, I think, a perfect embodiment of like that. We met people who sort of reminded me of this, that kind of bougie Palestinian solidarity group that we went to.
Like rad lib baby boomer types.
Yeah, people who are like far out but like live in like really nice houses and are like totally disconnected from like any of the things that they.
He kind of reminded me of a lot of people at that commune.
Yeah, absolutely.
This commune that we stayed at over the summer. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, he's a dude, smokes like a ton of weed. He's a drug dealer, I guess. He sells his weed to one of like the immigration roundup guys, who we meet later. He, likes to, talk about the old days of anti-war activism. And he really likes Zen music, which I was also pretty into.
You okay, amigo?
Yeah, my ears are still ringing from earlier.
Ah, well, a little Zen music won't bother you then, will it?
You would be.
Yeah, it was neat. I don't know what it was, but I would listen to that. But yeah, he's, I don't know what he means, except that he's part of this like sort of posh existence that Theo is like.
They just have connections.
Yeah. Later, I mean, he goes back to the city, presumably London, I think. I don't know. I don't know English cities very well. But eventually he's... Oh, fuck. What are the people called that kidnap him?
Oh, gosh.
The fishes.
Yes.
The fish.
It was something with a nature thing, yeah.
Yeah. He gets kidnapped off the street. And they're like interrogating. He's like in this room, and they're interrogating him, and there's a plurality of men's voices yelling at him, and then a woman's voice is basically like, shut up and turn the light on. And one of my favorite actresses, Julianne Moore, is there, and
her name is Julian, and
yeah, which is awesome for me because I'm really bad at character names. But Julian is Theo's ex-wife.
Right.
They had a baby together. The baby did not make it, and died at a young age. But Julian is the head of a quote-unquote terrorist organization, revolutionary organization, whatever, called Fish. The state blamed Fish for that coffee shop bomb from the beginning of the movie, but Fish insists they don't do that anymore. They used to bomb, but now the government does it to frame them.
Right.
So we don't know what's true.
I believe Julian.
Yeah, I would like to, too.
Well, and they're intent on this other task.
But Julian says they need travel papers. They have a Fuji. They need to get her somewhere
on the coast,
past the milieu of checkpoints and things like that. And Theo has a cousin who is high up and could get travel papers. Again, we get these wild shots when he's going to his cousins of like he's in a limo being taken there and just like being driven through this like kind of crowded market where there's just like hundreds of people with like, you know, rickshaws and like people hawking wares and things like that. And it doesn't look like a society that's doing super well. And then they go through these gates and it's where like the actual posh people live. And there's like zebras and ostriches in the park and like royal guards walking down the street and like nice horses trotting with carriages, and it's like that sort of old world like royal family side of England. But they pull up into a place that looks suspiciously like the cover of Animals by Pink Floyd. That's
including the pig
fucking flying on strings up in the air. They go in and there's like his cousin works or is the curator of the Ark of Art. They're collecting all like the art that is, you know, could be destroyed throughout the world as it's falling apart, and they're holding it in this place until everyone else in the world dies, I guess.
Or things get better, maybe.
But right off, we see that pig, which I think Pink Floyd actually had a giant pig floating around at some concert at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. There's a Banksy in the garage when he pulls up.
There's an enormous Picasso.
There's how do you say that?
What was it?
Ganica. It's a portrait of like the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
There's, you know, when he runs into his cousin, there's Michelangelo's David. Yeah.
Just
David. And he says that you know, they didn't get to La Pieta before it was destroyed, which comes up later.
And that does come up later. Also, that nerd whatever podcast talked about the music going on in this scene, which was, I liked the song, but
it's King Crimson in the core of the Crimson King.
Yeah, so it's combining like the profane music with the very high art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I thought it was a
profane,
really
the
cool
sublime.
juxtaposition. Yeah. Sorry, I just thought that was a really good film review. They did a good job.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna say about the Banksy thing. Banksy wasn't quite as huge in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about that.
But they talked about how like this dude, the director knew who he was, and he talked about meeting like a representative of Banksy's in a coffee shop somewhere.
I wonder how Banksy like has managed to have this like PR network around himself.
Apparently Banksy like showed up in the coffee shop and sat behind and listened to their conversation.
Oh wow.
And then disappeared before.
And he just never noticed.
Yeah. And Banksy gave him the cops kissing each other stencil to use in it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting.
But yeah, he eats this dinner with his cousin and his what do you call, it's not a nephew, what do you call your cousin's son?
Your cousin.
Okay. Well, his cousin's son is
It's just his second cousin, I think, technically.
one of the only sci-fi things, like futurist things in this entire movie, is
little
that
thing on his hand with
Yeah.
the weird wire things.
yeah, in this game he's playing very intently
Yeah.
before. So one of the problems that they had with this, that the studio had with marketing this, like the studio went under new ownership or like new management between when this movie started and when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at this movie and were like, what the fuck? This is like a bleak ass futuristic movie without any like colorful technology. There's no fancy weaponry. There's no aliens. There's no, like, how the fuck do we market this movie? And like the posters are all fucking awful. All the taglines of the movie are terrible. Like, but this is one of the only pieces really of like futurist stuff, and it's because everyone's so like, most of what we see is people just like being really down and out, so we don't see access to these like cool little toys that surely exist. But yeah, we
Wait, what's the story on this kid? On the son.
I think
he's not very young. He can't be. He cannot be younger than 18.
No.
Not possible.
No.
So he's an adult.
Yeah.
Is he disabled in some way?
I don't think so. I think he just doesn't give a fuck. I think he's just a. So the idea.
Are children treated so, like, coddled so much in a world where there are no more children?
That's definitely
so the
possible.
scene is he's playing his video game at the dinner table and completely ignoring the conversation.
And just like, I mean, smartphones weren't really quite what they are today, so we wouldn't see it, but
yeah,
it's
exactly,
like a child playing Game Boy.
Yeah, it's rude, and but then the father yells at this man. He's a man. He's an adult, to take his medication.
Alex, take your pills. Alex. Alex? Alex!
I mean, I think of it as like he's just telling him to eat, but it's like a pill.
Oh, is it?
I
well,
think
they're eating food.
Yeah.
Well,
he's
either way,
ignoring the food.
He's instructing him to do this self-care thing that you wouldn't really tell an adult to do unless they were disabled in some way and unable to like know to do it themselves. So that's what made me think there was something up with this person, like something was wrong with them. But I'm not sure if we're supposed to believe that he's disabled or that he is so coddled because he's a child. Well, he's not a child anymore, but he's this man's child and they can't have anymore.
The closest thing the world has to a child.
Yeah. And also, it's not like he has to grow up to be anything productive in society because there likely won't be a society for very long.
If you're a wealthy person, you know,
all he has to do is sit in this castle and be comfy till he dies.
You get to just be a nihilist.
Yeah, well, I mean, and in this world where there is nothing to work for and nothing to hope for, you just hole yourself up in your castle, collect pretty things, and be comfy till you die.
Yeah, I mean, and almost ethically, that's almost okay. You know, you don't
everyone
think
else.
that hard
I mean,
about it.
except that all of these rich people could have the power to make it so that everyone else isn't just being miserable till they die.
Yeah, that's what I mean by. That's why it's almost.
Think of how many Fujis could live in that palace.
Right. Yeah. And admire all the fucking art that they're hoarding there.
Yeah. But I guess we're supposed to see how gross their excesses are.
Yeah. And it is gross.
It is.
But he gets the papers. He meets up with Julian. I forget. Oh fuck! What's the dude's name? Who's sort of a major character? Julian. The driver is named Luke. We have the doula, and we have Key.
So Keys are important characters.
Key is our important character. They're in this car, and we've got to basically we establish that Theo and Julian actually have kind of an adorable relationship, and that Theo used to be kind of a badass.
Yes, and well, also Theo and Julian had a child.
Yeah,
who died.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I spaced. Yeah, so they do have a cute relationship. They play their game with the ping pong ball, like throwing it back and forth in each other's mouths, and
they talk about Theo dosing those cops.
Oh yeah, so they lived in a squat, and some police came to like try and get them out, and Theo invited them up to have some coffee and then dosed their coffee
with like LSD
yeah.
or ketamine.
Yeah.
Which
I'm generally against dosing people, but when it's cops, go for it, guys.
Yeah, whatever you gotta do, get them out of your house.
Yep.
For your own safety. My God.
Yeah, but in general, don't slip anybody drugs. It's not cool.
No, not cool. But we start having this. We have this wild shot.
Yeah, this scene lasts a very long time.
So it's
of them in this car.
It's 200 and I mean, this doesn't sound like a ton of time, but it is. It's 247 uninterrupted seconds of shot. Mm-hmm. Where there's five people in a car and a camera right in the middle of it somehow. Mm-hmm. That they talked about. I read about they did like days of training this scene.
Oh wow.
Because you have to like move out of the way of the. I mean, it's a pretty small camera that they got, but you still got to like maneuver with it.
Right. I always wonder how they did scenes like this.
Yeah, it's well, and then it gets out of how it gets out of the car at the end of it is beyond me. But we're having this. This is the first time that, again, we've had a number of scenes where the refugees outside the train station. We had another scene later where there was Theo was kind of casually walking past a demonstration of repenters is what they're called, and then where the camera lingered, and then another where we're watching people kind of protesting as all of these belongings are being shoved out of these flats, just out the windows of these flats by the state, presumably, and they're evicting what I'm guessing is like Fuji housing. But this is the first time where the background really comes crashing into the foreground.
Right.
And they're driving along, and all of a sudden, this car that's on fire
rolls down this hill
and blocks their path.
Right.
They have to roll backward, but there's just gangs of people coming up on their car.
Right.
And a guy or a couple of guys on a motorcycle show up and fucking shoot the lead actress of this movie 20-some minutes into it.
Yeah, this movie, like, they took their biggest name in this movie and just killed her so fast. She actually has sort of a minimal impact on the plot. It's almost like Julianne Moore was like, all right, yeah, I'll do this movie, but I'm not going to do a lot of this movie.
I mean, it's almost like Psycho. That happens in Psycho.
I've never seen Psycho.
Oh, the main billing lady of the Psycho just dies right away.
I think that's a pretty badass thing on the director's part.
It was so bad. I mean, because Clive Owen wasn't that big yet when this movie came out. He was a pretty small actor at this point. But yeah, they escape.
I guess they have Michael Caine.
Yeah, but
he dies pretty early on too.
Yeah, they but yeah, Julianne Moore dies. They get away from this crowd. They have to fucking kill a couple of cops who come up on them, and they escape to this farm. This is one of the first instances they get to this farm. It seems like a chill place, except there's a lot of guys with guns.
Well, if our commune comes into existence and the world goes to shit, we're gonna have a lot of guys with guns too.
I mean, I get it. I get
one
the
day
guys
we're
with
gonna have
guns.
a commune.
I'm just saying it looks pretty chill. Maybe the average viewer wouldn't be like, I don't trust those guys with the heavy artillery over there. But
yeah, I mean, it just makes sense because they have means of production to defend against the hordes.
They do.
Yeah.
But this is the first instance, I think, where there's a pair of dogs on the farm who, like, the guy, one of the guys who owns the farm is like, those dogs don't like anybody and they like you. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
They like Theo a lot.
There's a lot of cute dogs in this scene.
There are a lot of cute dogs in this scene. But this is where Key reveals what's special about her.
Right. So Key we haven't talked about much. She's a refugee, a black woman from, they haven't really specified what country.
She's just a Fuji.
Yeah, and she seems very young to me. She looks very young.
Yeah, she must be over 18, but not by much.
Yeah, I think she's great. She has a hilarious sense of humor, very snarky, in sort of a young teen kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is important for the plot and for her character because, as we find out,
so they do this scene and it looks like, what's that Venus painting called?
I don't know, the painting of Venus on the shell emerging from the ocean. I don't remember what it's called.
But they set it up so she looks like that. The birth of Venus. Yeah.
So she looks like that. She's like she's covering her breasts. So she's revealing that she's pregnant.
Yeah, she reveals she's pregnant.
She takes off her shirt and like you see her standing behind
a bunch of cows.
And she's covering her breasts and showing her belly, which I know that they did it to be reminiscent of this painting, but I also think that she could have absolutely shown that she was pregnant without taking her whole shirt off.
Yes.
I thought it was a weird thing to do.
But she felt like she needed to clue Theo into this.
Right, well, because Julian told her to trust Theo.
Yeah, and no one else. Yeah,
and,
which is sweet.
Well, and it was true.
Yeah.
We find out later.
So there's a lot of really cool things about Theo. They go to this meeting about what to do next.
Right.
Because they have this plan to just essentially just take her to the border because there's this group called the Human Project. Which
we don't know what they're doing. Really.
We know that they theoretically have medical facilities.
Yeah, they're definitely good guys that
That's
are
the
helping
hope, at
humanity.
least, yeah.
Yeah.
Who want to harbor a fresh humanity.
Yeah.
But the goal is to get her to the Human Project. Now, all of a sudden, with the death of Julian, their leader of the group, there's some sort of, and the fact that there's heat on them.
Yeah,
because
so
they shot some fucking cops.
Yeah, on the way out of being attacked by this gang, some cops wanted to talk to them, and they had to kill the cops because they can't have Key be discovered, because then she'll be deported and it possibly be discovered that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then
she's very pregnant,
she's
so
very
it would
pregnant.
not
She's like 8
be
months
hard.
along.
It would not be
They
hard.
really
to see.
should have started this earlier, but I guess you wouldn't expect to be pregnant in this world, so you might not get on that early.
No, but they started suggesting that she stay at the farm with them and have her baby there.
Right, and she doesn't want to do that.
And
then Theo suggests
that they give.
That they tell somebody, tell some authority. And she says no, they'll take the baby and give it to some posh black lady. And I think she's right. They would absolutely not allow a refugee to be the one woman who can have babies.
And so we were talking about this earlier off pod. But you were talking about how this was so close to turning into that like
the trope where you have often, I think it happens in a lot of movies, where you have a black person who is special or almost magical or mystical in some way, and they're sort of
Green Mile, Legend of Bagger Vance, The Shining.
So they're important to the plot, but they exist to advance the main character's story.
Right.
And this could have been that. Like, the story is Theo getting Key to the Human Project.
Mm-hmm.
And the trials that Theo goes through and him being, like, the hero. But Key still maintains a lot of agency in this, which I think is important. Key decides what she wants to do, who she wants to go with, who she wants to trust. She shuts down wrong ideas.
And when this idea that Theo recommends of her going and being public about this,
because he thinks she needs medical help.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like totally irrational here, but is also not someone hasn't been involved in thinking about things like class for decades. I think 18 years.
I mean, just imagine what they would do to a woman like her. They would probably try to breed her or something horrible.
Yeah,
it would be absolutely terrible and disgusting what they could do to someone like her. But
he shuts up about it.
Yeah, he does. He shuts up, and she's right, and it's really, it becomes her story in a lot of ways. She makes a lot of jokes at him that I think are funny and kind of like subverts this idea, like that they have her subvert the idea that there's something mystical about her by like challenging it. So at one point, Theo asks her who the father is, and she's like, "Oh, what? Fuck you, I'm a virgin." And he's like, "Wait, really?" She's like, "No, I'm not a virgin. And she's like, "I don't know who the father is."
They let it hang in the air just long enough for you to be like, "Oh no, is it? Oh wait, really?"
Yeah. So, and then she's talking about the woman who's her doula is sort of like a really crunchy white lady.
Yes, very, very granola.
She's a doula. And she's outside doing this like Tai Chi stuff, and Key says she tried to do some of that voodoo on me too.
Is she doing her voodoo?
She's doing something.
She smited me with that. Said it was good for my baby.
She said it would be good for the baby, and she's just making fun of this woman's belief in magic. So Key, throughout this film, really shuts down the idea that she's a magical, mystical being.
Right. She's just a girl.
She's a very badass girl. She's pregnant.
Who's pregnant.
And she needs to get somewhere, and she needs someone to help her get there.
Like, her magic thing is just the magic of life.
Yeah, well, something that it's special that she can do it, but it's still human and natural, and not supernatural.
Right. But later that night, Theo one of the guys who shot Julian rolls up to this house.
Yeah.
And we discover that there was a plot with the driver of the car, who's sort of taking a de facto leadership position, and all these other people to kill Julian and change the course of this plan in order to use this baby as a political tool.
Right. Which, again, taking away Key's agency.
Right.
So we have to escape from this.
And Theo does just that.
Right. So Theo wakes her up and the doula and is like, we got to get out of here. They're trying to take the baby.
And Theo leaves without shoes, first of all.
Yeah, this man has a lot of bad luck keeping his things in this movie. He loses things throughout.
Yeah. He disables a bunch of cars.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs don't bark at him.
Because they like him. Animals like him. There's also the kitten climbing up his leg.
Yeah, there's also the kitten climbing up his leg.
The thing about animals liking him, we were thinking maybe he's like a St. Francis figure. Maybe.
I kind of get it. I mean,
I think it's something that you see in a lot of movies. Animal attraction, animal magnetism is a sign of innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Like Disney movies, we have the princesses always have animal friends.
Yeah, but he's not quite innocent.
No, but he has a pure heart.
Yeah.
He isn't planning to use Key for anything nefarious. He's just going to follow his laid out path and help her.
The other reason I was sort of, and this is one of those very after the fact thoughts, but thinking about this, he we'll get to this later, but he keeps losing his possessions.
Yes.
As this movie goes on. That's sort of like a big...
He's losing... maybe this is it. Like, he's losing the sort of trappings of his comfortable life. And
which is something that St. Francis was all about.
Losing your comforts.
Yeah, and getting into poverty. And he was also, like, a big... like, ecology as a thing wasn't, like, super around yet, but he was big into not only animals but like the ecosystem as a whole, which they don't just directly say that it's like a failure of or like our abuse of the ecosystem that has led to infertility as a whole, but I think that's probably a theme of this movie.
Yeah.
But whatever the case, they escape. They go to Jasper's house. Where they hang out for a little while and they're treated really, really well, and Jasper's super fucking psyched. But then the alarm goes off. And Jasper hooks them up. So the place they initially wanted to go to catch this boat, they don't have time to get to anymore.
Right.
And there's another place where they can get it, but it's through a refugee camp.
Right. What about the alarm? Explain the alarm.
Oh, we'll get back there.
Okay.
So Jasper hooks them up with this guy he sells weed to, whose name is Sid.
He's a fucking fascist.
And to get them brought into this refugee camp and get into the water to meet this boat. But while this is going on, an alarm goes off, and these fuckers from Fish are going through, getting to Jasper's house.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure how they found them, but it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
Jasper decides him and his wife would just be extra baggage and stays behind, while tells them to tell Sid, he's a fascist pig.
That's their code word.
That's the code word.
You're a fascist pig.
And Jasper, basically plays ignorant, tells them come inside, get some tea. And then
he also kills his wife.
He
uses the suicide kit. And then they shoot him.
Yeah, and then they kill him.
But they get away.
But Theo and Key and the doula take off.
And they end up at a school.
Yeah, which is like totally derelict.
Yeah, it looks a lot like this documentary I saw once about Chernobyl.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah. There was like an amusement park there.
Oh yeah,
people who
I've
work
seen
there,
photos.
and it's really creepy. But yeah, so they're at the school. The doula is telling Theo the story about
her time when
the
pregnancy stopped.
Yeah, there were all these miscarriages and things. Key is sitting out on a swing set, which is an interesting sort of way to set her. Kind of, I think, maybe highlighting like youth and childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I just keep looking at Key like throughout this and thinking about how young she is. Like she looks to me like she is like 16 or 17.
She looks like a child.
Like she has to be over 18 because everybody is, but she looks so young to me.
Yeah. She can't be much over 18. Yeah.
Just like the way her eyes are. Like she doesn't look super young, but then when she talks and like when she's in these like moments where she's kind of like being vulnerable, like the way she sort of like puts her head down and looks up makes her look really young to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this is when Sid rolls up in a tank.
Yeah. Essentially a tank, like a big armored vehicle.
Yeah.
With some big old weapon on top.
Yeah.
Sid has some choice lines though. Sid is a funny guy and talks in the third person.
Yeah.
And she's Key is still successfully hiding her pregnancy at this point.
Yeah. Easy to do in a world where nobody thinks that you could possibly be pregnant.
But starts having contractions.
Not quite that.
On the way to camp. I think so.
I thought it was after they pretend to arrest her. She's on the bus.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe it's... Whatever the case. Somewhere between...
So, basically, they tell Sid he's a fascist pig. Sid gets the idea that this is... Jasper sent them. He arrests them, or pretends to arrest them to get them into this camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Key starts having contractions
He's
on
having
this bus.
contractions on the bus into the camp.
Yeah. They're doing their best to hide it. Again, Theo starts giving out his cigarettes. We're
losing his things. A guard takes his watch.
The doula. So when they actually roll into this camp, it's terrifying. It looks like the images,
like Abu Ghraib.
Yeah, from Abu Ghraib. They're definitely invoking that.
Yeah, so there's people being like lined up. It's implied they might be killing some of them.
Yeah, there's bodies. The doula who is praying for Key to be strong, is pulled off this bus and lined up with the rest of them.
The strength to rule. She has the power already within her. She has the wisdom already.
Oh, I said, what's wrong with you? Look at me, I said, what's wrong with you?
St. Gabriel, help us. We need...
Shut up! Rot you up, out!
St. Gabriel, come to our aid in this hour.
Get out!
We see someone standing on a chair that's very reminiscent, and like, oh man, it still sends chills up my spine just thinking about some of the imagery that was coming out. And I guess this was like 2004, 2005, but out of Abu Ghraib.
Yeah.
That sort of Christ position photo that came up. There are things that looked a lot like that. But they make it off this bus and into this camp where it's just like it kind of actually reminds me of the whatever the place Pinocchio goes.
Where like all the donkey
children? Yeah. It reminds me of that.
Because it's just like chaotic.
It's just chaotic and like
everybody's sinning. Well, that's what it's supposed to be in that movie. They're not really in this. In this, they're just fighting to live. Yeah.
But they meet, and again, so at this point, he's like, again, this crowds thing. He's we are thrust into the crowds. He's still trying to get his way out of it. Mm-hmm. But at this point, he's he finds Key. They find this older lady who they're supposed to look for, who gives them a place to rest and for her to have her baby. Again, Theo gives out the rest of his cigarettes.
Yes. And then he has to use his whiskey to sterilize his hands to deliver this baby.
And at this point, he has nothing.
Yeah,
that's all of his things.
Yeah, that's it.
He doesn't have.
He even takes off his coat and lays her on it so that she has because the mattress she's laying on is pretty gross, and they don't want the baby to fall out onto a dirty mattress. So his coat is gone too.
But they successfully deliver this baby.
It's a girl.
She
was gonna name it Frawley. When she thought it was a boy. So this is another comical thing. Key has these like funny ideas for names. And then she decides she's going to name it Bazooka. And he says, I was getting used to Frawley. And she goes, that's a boy's name. I really like the idea that Bazooka is a girl's name.
The first child in almost 20 years. Her name is Bazooka.
Well, no, that's not what she ends up naming it.
No. But, whatever case, Sid shows up the next morning in this house to tell them that the fish have bombed their way into this camp. The camp is in chaos. An uprising has started. He needs to get them out. But in reality, he's...
he realizes that they're wanted by the police, and he wants to turn them in. Penny, hush. Penny's really upset by this betrayal.
He realizes that both Fish and the state are looking for them. So... they must be fucking valuable in some way.
And then he discovers that she has this baby.
Yeah.
So now they're even more valuable.
Yeah. He's escorting them out and then...
At gunpoint.
And really, this fucking old lady who is a badass throughout this, the lady who's helping them, hits Sid over the head with like a block.
Yeah.
They escape. They start trying. Basically, Theo is getting her to find him a boat. They need to find some sort of boat to get out of this place, but the world around them is truly falling apart. They walk through, again, this is one of those crowds that is on the peripheral for most of the movie, but suddenly they're walking directly, like there's a march of we're not sure what nation they're from, but they're
Muslim refugees.
Yeah, all shouting Allah Akbar. They have a dead comrade.
They're wasting a whole lot of their ammo shooting their guns in the air.
They are.
It bothered me. I understand the demonstration, but you need to be pointing those guns at soldiers.
Every single time a weapon has been used in like any movie we've watched,
listen, some of us just think tactically.
Yeah, and that's good. We need more of you. But at this point, they're diving through this crowd, and he's fully submerged in like the otherness.
Yeah. We passed. Don't forget the Pieta.
Oh yeah.
There's a woman holding.
Well, we've not quite gotten there yet.
Throughout this scene, this happens. There's a woman. She's holding a dead, young man and crying, and it's reminiscent of Mary holding Christ, and also of a photograph of, was it a Serbian revolution?
It's during the Bosnian.
Sorry.
So it's called I'm sorry, La Pieta Bosnia, I believe. Or I'm sorry, it's called Kosovo Pieta. It's during the Balkan Wars.
And it's the same idea: a mother holding a dead son.
Yeah, wailing over. But it's like this really, again, Nerd Writer on YouTube pointed this out, but it's this really, it's taking the art back from the bourgeois castle that it's kept in and putting it back on the street where it belongs. But yeah, there's this, we see the people we know from Fish. There's this whole back and forth, and eventually Key gets lost, and we have this absolutely fucking wild scene.
It's a scary scene
of him.
He's basically chasing her screams.
Yeah. And it's another
very long scene.
It's a 379-second shot that took. I'm gonna do the story of it. Okay. Really quick.
We're running long on time. But
No, I know. No, we're almost there. We're very close to the end of this.
Okay.
They had 15 days to shoot this scene, which includes like hundreds of people, like tanks, explosions, like everything. And on day 12, they'd not shot anything yet because they were just setting it up, and they went to shoot it. The director didn't like how it was looking, so he cut it. It takes 5 hours to set up, so they lost the sun. Next day, the camera guy tripped, so they had to cut it there. And the final day, it's all going really well, and then this explosion goes off, and a blood pack bursts on accident and hits the camera screen, which is now known as like this really iconic thing that really brings you into the shot so much more.
Yeah, there's blood spatters on the camera lens.
And the director yelled cut. The day 15, the literal last chance they had to do this, the director yelled cut, but an explosion went off, and so no one heard him say cut, and his cinematographer is telling him to shut the fuck up, essentially. And they finish it, and it's one of the coolest looking.
It looks good. It's really good. I thought it was intentional.
Yeah,
it told me about this.
I mean, he said it was this was a miracle that it landed on there, and just the way it's just a little bit. Yeah. But the scene itself is like, I don't know. There's so many moving pieces to it. It's beautiful to look at, and it's just really over the top.
Yeah, it is. So he finds Key
in this building, a couple stories up, from this guy, the guy who's driving the car initially, and
I forget his name.
I forgot his name again, but he's talking to her. He's talking to Theo about how beautiful this baby is.
Yeah,
but
he forgot how beautiful babies are.
Yeah, but
also pointing a gun at her.
And every 30 seconds or so, firing the gun out the window at the soldiers below. Mm-hmm. And there's like I am they're straddling between being a representative of an ideological stance and being a human being and that's sort of what's happening, I think, a lot through this movie.
Right. Well, and then the next scene is really heavy on that.
They take the baby away.
No.
Oh.
They don't. Who takes the baby?
I mean, Theo and
Key leave this room safely.
Yeah.
Luckily. And they're heading down the stairs, and they pass a group of these like revolutionaries, and they hold a gun up and like stop them, and then they just look at the baby and let them pass. The baby's like crying. So at this point, everybody knows there's a baby because it's crying.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Most people involved in this,
they just touch the baby and they're happy to see one.
Yeah, and they're not. Most people involved in the scene aren't fighters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're people who live here.
Yeah, in this apartment building. So they're like blessing Key and touching the baby and crying, basically. But the people who are fighting stop fighting and look at the baby, and then they are going down these stairs, and there's soldiers from the like military, and one of them sees that there's a baby and just screams like ceasefire, and
This shit
everybody
makes
stops.
me cry. This made me
beautiful.
cry.
It's beautiful, but like they get almost all the way out, and then immediately guns start going off again. Like you think
missile fires out the window.
it's like
and then
this
it's just
idea,
gone.
like this is a thing they've been fighting on over. This baby could end this war, but actually no, the fighting is deeper than that. The fighting is struggles that have been going on for hundreds, thousands of years.
Right.
It's not just about the baby.
Right. And that's so again, they're trying to reach a boat.
Yeah. So they're trying to reach a boat, but they get it. They manage it.
But they, one of the things, the biggest themes of this movie is this idea that they're the old ideologies are dead. Then I mean they're
killing
present.
each other.
They're killing each other. They're not working.
And
they're not
even
dead. They're
new
not
life
working.
can't really stop them.
And but we desperately need something new because the world is fucking dying, and we have this ideal the ideology of totalitarianism, essentially, that is the state versus this pseudo left revolutionary thing that we don't really know the positive politics of,
right?
Except that they're
against the state
and pro Fuji, which is all good, but they're still caught up with the idea of playing politics in some way. They want this baby as a political tool.
So, but then they all pause and admire the baby, and you feel like the fighting will stop for the baby. The baby passes through. They start killing each other again, like the moment she steps away from the firing line. Mm-hmm. Almost like not even, like right before she steps away.
Yeah, they barely made it out.
But it almost seems like life is continuing on despite the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So like new life will continue to happen and find new ways to exist. Meanwhile, the rest of us down here are just going to kill each other off.
Which is why I think the boat is a good metaphor. Mm-hmm. Because it's taking them away from, a boat is rootless. It is not, it doesn't need to be attached to any nation or state or ideology or anything.
And when they get into their rowboat to go out to meet the ship that's coming, what was the ship called?
I don't remember.
Tomorrow. It's called Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So even more of like moving on.
Mm-hmm.
The water, like everything is shrouded in fog. You can't see the refugee camp anymore. It's gone. It's past.
Yeah. Except you can see it light up when the English jets fly over and bomb it.
Yeah, but like they are eventually just enclosed and shrouded in fog and are sort of in like another.
The light
it feels
of
like
a buoy.
Yeah, it feels like they're in another world, really.
Yeah.
So they just are sitting on this boat waiting for a ship to pass, and Theo reveals that he's bleeding because he's been shot.
Yeah.
I'm bleeding. Jesus shit, I'm bleeding.
No,
I'm bleeding
me.
everywhere.
It's me.
What?
You got me.
Bad.
No. I'm fine. Keep her close, Key. Whatever happens, whatever they say, you keep her close.
His work is done, and we don't really need him anymore. So this is the end of Theo.
Yeah, Theo dies.
Key tells him that she's gonna name the baby Dylan. I think that was
the name of his baby,
his son that died.
Yeah.
So she says that can be a girl's name. So that's very beautiful.
Yeah. And then she's just sitting there in the water, waiting, hoping for this boat.
Well, she seems very confident that it's going to show up.
Yeah.
And then it does show up.
It does. Yeah. We don't know, but we don't know anything. It's cool.
Yeah, we have no idea what happens after this.
That we see that there are people on this boat and that they see her.
They go off into tomorrow.
And then it ends.
So, but that might be the point. Like, we recognize this fighting is pointless and getting us nowhere, and any hope is going to be in abandoning that and moving on to tomorrow. And it's left to the viewer to decide what that is.
Yeah, I think it's like a truly revolutionary premise.
Yeah, it's great. So basically, the tankies and the anarchists on Twitter have got to stop fighting. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the eco-socialists.
And the Nazis.
I was going to say the eco-socialists need to like get a boat and
leave behind the eco-fascists.
Yeah, and leave behind the eco-fascists, the anarchists, and the tankies. And just go off and, save the world.
There we go.
But yeah, make sure there's nothing else really important I wanted to say about that, other than it's one of the most moving movies I've ever seen. It lost money.
One of your favorite songs.
Oh yeah. Oh, when that long ass shot comes on, man, I learned how to pronounce this word today. Therondy, Therondy, for the victims of Hiroshima.
Show me the word.
Therondy, I think.
Yes, Therany.
Therany. There's no D. Therany for the victims.
Oh no, Therandy.
Okay, my God.
Sorry.
Therandy for the victims of Hiroshima plays, which is one of my all-time favorite pieces of music.
Threnody. That's right, because it sounds like Serenity.
Oh,
well, the first few times I heard you say it, I thought you were saying Serenity. Threnody for the victims of Hiroshima.
Which is a piece by Penderecki. It was also really notably used last year's Twin Peaks.
That one really weird episode of Twin Peaks, in that episode 8 in the second season. Or The Return.
But it's this incredibly dissonant string piece that I think I'm going to use for the intro of this show.
Use it for the outro.
Maybe I'll use it for the outro of the show.
Because then you can just play it longer.
Yeah,
that's
that's
can listen
true.
to it.
But again, it's about using it in contrast to like the war zone that we're seeing, not in contrast, but
in
conjunction with the war zone that we're seeing Theo thrust into. Hiroshima was at some level looked like the end of the world, and that's what we were looking at the end of this movie.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, really wonderful choice of music.
Yes.
But yeah, otherwise, I think that's it.
Yeah, that was good. That was long. We're at hour 25 now.
That's where we've been
That's
hanging
where we've
out.
been?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but anyways, tune in, thoughts on Children of Men. DM us, hit us up.
At popcorn_pod. Rate us on iTunes.
Yeah,
Follow us on SoundCloud.
Yeah, thank you.
Send us to your mom for Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Mother's Day is tomorrow, guys.
Thank you, Anarcho69ist, for the very kind words on iTunes.
Yes, thank you.
That's very
we love
sweet.
you.
Yeah,
You're one of our
you.
favorites. And you have a really cute dog. Please give Parker some pets for me.
So rate us on iTunes, hit us up, yell at us, say nice things on iTunes though, but yell at us in DMs. Yeah, keep your
negativity to yourself, man.
Or in the DMs.
In the DMs.
That's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm at Alberto Army.
I'm at Pinko_snob.
And we're the Conquest of Popcorn. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.